return of the Race of Champions and the first race in Europe for the new super spectacular Grand Prix cars. Yes, here at the superb Brands Hatch circuit, the new flat-bottomed Grand Prix cars make their European debut. And it's going to be an enthralling battle for victory between the 1.5-litre turbocharged cars, the Ferrari, the JPS Renault, the Brabham BMW and the new Spirit Honda, and the 3-litre Ford Cosworth-powered Williams, Marlboro, Tyrrell, March, Ligier, Arrows and Theodore cars, plus the return of 1980 world champion Alan Jones. And the man who dominated practice is world champion Keke Rosberg in his Tag Williams, with René Arnoux Ferrari second, Alan Jones a magnificent third in his Arrows, and Long Beach winner John Watson fourth, Roberto Guerrero fifth in his Theodore, Danny Sullivan sixth in the Tyrrell, and seventh Brian Henton back to Formula One in a Theodore. Mansell, 8th in his first drive in a JPS Turbo Renault. Raul Barcel, 9th. Hector Ribac, the Mexican, 10th in a Brabham BMW. Chico Serra, 11th. Stefan Johansson, 12th after blowing 2 engines. And newcomer Frenchman Jean-Louis Schlesser, 13th. But even before today's Race of Champions, there's been plenty of spectacle. Yesterday in Formula Ford practice, something to excite anyone. Ross Cheever went off in the red Van Diemen. Along came the Dutchman Allard Kalf in his Spartan, and look! He rolls it right over, and fortunately both Cheever and Kalf are perfectly okay. And there are the winners of the last 13 Race of Champions. The last of which in 1979 was won by the late and great Gilles Villeneuve in his Ferrari, and the previous 2 of which were won by James Hunt in a McLaren, and of course, as ever, James is with me here today.
And here they come on the warming up lap, the drivers, Keke Rosberg leading the field round, just warming up the tyres, weaving about a bit to get some heat in the tyres on this fairly cold day for Formula One cars at Brands Hatch. And there was we just saw the Ralt, the Spirit Honda in the background there. He's at the back of the field, Stefan Johansson. A word should be said about him. There he is, the second to last car, number 40. And he, in fact, although he's posted a very bad qualifying time because he blew 2 engines during practice with this brand new car, but he was in fact second or third fastest during the untimed session of any of the recorded times. So look out for him when the race starts. As long as the car keeps going, we expect him to be very, very quick.
So Keke Rosberg in pole position with a time of 1 minute 15.77 compared with the lap record held by Didier Pironi, 1 minute 12.4. But don't forget that these are the flat-bottomed cars without the skirts that have increased tyre adhesion. René Arnoux in the Scarlet turbocharged Ferrari in second fastest position. Behind him, the Long Beach winner, John Watson. But behind Keke Rosberg on the left is Alan Jones, driving in only his second Formula One race since he retired in 1981. Guerrero's come out of the pack. Beautiful start by Rosberg. John Watson is up into third place, but now Danny Sullivan is in third position with John Watson as they go up to the right-hander at Druids, and it's Keke Rosberg leading, René Arnoux second, Danny Sullivan in only his third Formula One race is in third position as they stream down to the left-hander at Graham Hill. It's Rosberg, Arnoux, Sullivan, Watson and Alan Jones coming up to take John Watson on the inside. There is the 1980 world champion in his unsponsored Arrows, and there is the reigning world champion, Keke Rosberg, and René Arnoux. Looks as though he's using the power of the Ferrari, and indeed he is, to punch his way past on the first out of 40 laps to take the lead from the world champion, Keke Rosberg. But all the time, of course, these drivers are having to be very, very careful because they have cold tyres. It'll take at least half a dozen laps for the tyres to warm up properly. But meantime, René Arnoux goes down towards Stirling's Bend into Clearways and Clark Curve to complete the first lap.
Yes, terrific start from Danny Sullivan there from the third row of the grid. He came blasting his way through and drove the first two corners very aggressively and with great success. So he's moved well up the field.
Arnoux leads, Rosberg second, Sullivan third in the green Tyrrell. In fourth position is Alan Jones as they go round paddock. In fifth position is John Watson. And where is Stefan Johansson? The answer is he is last but 4, so he's making his way up through the field. Stefan Johansson in the Spirit Honda V6 turbocharged car. It's its first race, but there is René Arnoux leads. Roberto Guerrero has gone into the pits. Arnoux leads in the Ferrari, and this is only his third race in the Ferrari. He drove, of course, at Brazil, where he finished in 10th position. He drove at Long Beach, where he finished in third place, and we are now on lap 2 out of 40, and the diminutive Frenchman René Arnoux is well away in the Ferrari, and that is the leader of that batch is Nigel Mansell, number 12 in the JPS Renault, driving for the first time a turbocharged car ahead of Hector Ribac, the Mexican, his first drive in a turbocharged Brabham, and not at all happy with it because he was very miserable in practice. There is Mansell, chased by Hector Ribac, and with them is Stefan Johansson ahead of the Ligier of Raoul Boesel. So, lap 2, it's Rosberg across the line, a flash of flame. There's Mansell, Ribac, Johansson. And at the end of the second lap, it's Arnoux, Rosberg, and Arnoux is about 1.7 seconds ahead of Rosberg. Then Sullivan third, Jones fourth, Watson, and there is Danny Sullivan and Alan Jones absolutely together, battling for that position. Rosberg the leader, the second position. There's the battle for third.
Yes, a difficult one for Jones. He doesn't know Danny Sullivan's driving style. It's with newcomers, Sullivan's going to make himself pretty difficult to pass. Jones is having a look to see if he can find a way around. As yet, he hasn't come up with an answer.
The battle for third position behind the race leader, and it's Danny Sullivan who's got it at the moment. Arnoux leads, Rosberg, Sullivan, 33-year-old Danny Sullivan from Louisville, Kentucky, who's been racing for some 12 years, but only now is he getting the recognition that many people, certainly including myself, think he deserves from Ken Tyrrell. He's pulling away from Alan Jones, who's in fourth place, as in second and first positions, Rosberg and Arnoux cross the line.
Yes, Danny Sullivan, I have to say, has shown great promise since Ken Tyrrell has given him his chance and has really done very well in his opening spell in Formula One racing.
Keke Rosberg is fastest so far, 1 minute 19.07 miles an hour, a speed of 118.9 miles an hour, well, of course, below the lap record. Arnoux and now Rosberg is closing up slightly on the Frenchman. There's not much of a gap between Rosberg in second place. There he is. Danny Sullivan, who is third in the green Tyrrell. Alan Jones, who is in fourth position. And Alan Jones, of course, is still driving with 2 steel pins in his hip after breaking his leg just a few weeks ago and having it pinned.
Well, should be said about Stefan Johansson's progress. He's flying through the field now, and he's just about to break clear of a pack, a group towards the back. He's at the moment battling with Hector Ribac.
8th position, Stefan Johansson. There is Ribac. There is Johansson, who has got ahead of Chico Serra, number 29 in the White Arrows. That's the Brazilian Chico Serra. But now the Swedish driver, Stefan Johansson. Watch the Honda-powered car as he tackles Hector Ribac coming into Clearways and Clark Curve.
Yes, he's looking for a way around, but the Brabham BMW is very powerful, of course, and he can't really get at him. And I should say that it's been the Brabham team have really disappointed the Brands Hatch crowd and us here in the television team, and presumably you viewers, in that Nelson Piquet was promised for this race and they haven't put him out. Patrese is unavailable, and they put Hector Ribac in the car, who after all is not really one of the world's top drivers, and it's a pity, had they not been able to produce their top drivers, that they didn't put a promising young British driver in the car for such a British domestic race, and I really think that Brabham's have let us down very badly.
7th, 8th and 9th in the white and blue Brabham. Hector Rebac, the Mexican, who's used to the power because last year he was driving in American CART, C-A-R-T races, where there's up to 1,000 horsepower available, but he's been driving on oval circuits. He hasn't driven since the end of last season, and most of the practice has been in the wet. He spun off this morning, and bang goes the Honda. That's the third engine in 2 days. It looks as though, yes, Stefan Johansson's turbo has gone, or a piston. He blew a piston in 2 engines yesterday in practice. They've driven thousands of miles with this Honda V6 in testing without any trouble at all, but as ever, it's the pressure of practice and racing which has found the weak spot, and Stefan Johansson's race is run on lap 6, so out goes the Honda. And look at this battle for the lead, because Sullivan and Jones have closed now right up to Keke Rosberg and René Arnoux.
Yes, now it would seem that the power of the Ferrari is just going to keep Arnoux in front for the moment, because he's got that concertina effect behind him now, and Rosberg's having a look. He's going to had to make his challenge around the twisty section at the back of the circuit, and it's not easy to pass there because the conventional passing places at Brands Hatch are at the end of the back straight into a very fast corner there, or into Paddock Bend, and the power of the Ferrari will always take it away and leave him just that bit too far ahead now.
But what about Rosberg in the Cosworth-powered Williams? What about Danny Sullivan in only his 3rd Formula One race, and Alan Jones and his comeback? The first 4 cross the line almost together, and now Rosberg is right in the slipstream of Arnoux, and he's surely going to try and take him at Paddock Bend. But Sullivan comes right up alongside Rosberg. A magnificent scrap for the first 4 places on this, the 7th lap out of 40, and Sullivan goes up and tries to take 2nd place from Arnoux. That's exactly what happened at Long Beach between Rosberg and Tambay.
Yes, Rosberg's in a difficult situation now. He's got Danny Sullivan climbing all over him like a rash, but he's having a go at the Ferrari. Can he get inside him? He has done it. Yes, Rosberg's through into the lead. The only problem is he's picked the bad spot, because the power of the Ferrari might well take it past him again, because they're now onto the longest straight on the circuit. But he got through quite quickly, and yes, I think he got the drop, and now that looks like Rosberg's away. So now Sullivan's really got to go for it in order to get round that Ferrari and not let Rosberg get away.
And look at Alan Jones. He's trying to do to Sullivan what Sullivan is trying to do to Arnoux, and John Watson is closing up with Brian Hinton in his first Formula One race for a long, long time, since the end of last season, is up with Watson.
I think Sullivan gets through. I think that Arnoux in the Ferrari is in trouble, because he's slowed down an awful lot, hence the concertina effect behind him, and it's really just a question of who can climb past him, and whether Rosberg can now get away.
Sullivan is past, Jones is past, Watson is past, Arnoux is in trouble, and coming into the pits at the end of lap 7. René Arnoux into the pits in the Ferrari, and is his race run? Well, it is effectively, because now the leader is Keke Rosberg with Danny Sullivan there, number 4, the American from Louisville in Kentucky, in the green Tyrrell in 2nd place. Alan Jones is in 3rd place. There is the leader, world champion Keke Rosberg. That is the gap through to 2nd, Sullivan. 3rd, Jones. In 4th place is Brian Hinton. In 5th place, the Long Beach winner, the man who is 2nd in the World Championship, John Watson. And Arnoux is out of the pits and back in the race, going up to Druids. Arnoux out of the pits. Nigel Mansell is in the pits, while we look at John Watson, the man who won at Long Beach in the Marlborough. He had tyre troubles in practice yesterday, just as he had at Long Beach. And John Watson is now in 5th position, with Brian Hinton 4th. Alan Jones 3rd, Danny Sullivan in 2nd position, Keke Rosberg, the Finnish world champion, Sir Keke Rosberg, he is in Finland.
Yes, I think that Watson has failed to find the right ingredient in his tyre combination that he did at Long Beach, obviously, for the race. And I think that he's struggling a little bit for grip compared with the other runners ahead of him.
There is the race leader, Keke Rosberg. And we are on lap 9 in this race of champions with Stefan Johansson, one of the 13 runners already out of it. And it looks as though Keke Rosberg, who was in pole position in the Brazilian Grand Prix and who did so well to finish second only to be disqualified. There is Jones in third place. There is the doughty Brian Henton. This is something that many people would not have forecast as we look at Keke Rosberg with Sullivan coming through out of Dingledale Corner. There is Alan Jones and Brian Henton, the man from Castle Donington, sponsored by his local estate agent in this race, and is now in 4th position, 18 Grand Prix behind him. This motorcycle dealer who has driven in sports, in Formula V, Formula Super V, Formula 3, 2, 1, twice Formula 3 champion, and the ex-Formula 2 European champion. He's come back into motor racing. He's raised the money to get a drive in this Theodore car, this Nigel Bennett designed car, owned by the Macau entrepreneur Teddy Yip. And now he's coming up to Hector Rybak, of course, who's well down through the field, and certainly not getting the best out of the Brabham BMW. In fact, Hector Rybak looks absolutely at sea in this powerful turbocharged car. Well, there is John Watson now he's slipping down through the field because Raoul Bursell is coming up now in the blue Ligier. And on this, the 10th lap, which is 1/4 distance, with the track absolutely dry, with the sun shining, with the sky clearing, Keke Rosberg completes another lap, which is a 1/4 distance, and into the pits goes John Watson, presumably to change tyres, because tyres, as in all modern Grand Prix races, are going to be the key for the race of champions. And this is the second time that John Watson's been into the pits, and that explains why he's right down in 9th position, a lap behind the leaders. And Sullivan now is only 3.8 seconds behind Rosberg.
Yes, Sullivan's hanging on very well indeed. He lost approximately that amount on the road in the delay in getting past Arnoux in the Ferrari when Arnoux was in tyre trouble. It's a real surprise to see him holding on. Rosberg qualified exceptionally fast. He was comfortably faster than the other normally aspirated cars, and which speaks volumes for Patrick Head's continuing career as a designer. He's ever since he joined the Williams team, he totally turned it around into a serious team, and he's continued to produce fantastic cars. And also he's found reliability in his engineering touch, has done great wonders for Frank Williams.
There is Rosberg, and Arnoux is flying past Roberto Guerrero. Undoubtedly, René Arnoux will be the fastest man on the circuit. He's got probably the most powerful car, with the possible exception of Hector Rybak's Brabham. But unlike Hector Rybak, René Arnoux can use all that power. He's on fresh Goodyear tyres, he's really using them, and it's not at all inconceivable that we'll see them more than regain that lap that he's lost and finish up in the top 6 very easily, because it's lap 12 now. It's a 40-lap race, so there's a long way to go.
A word must be said for Brian Henson, who's putting on a quite outstanding performance in the Theodore, which hitherto has not been a highly rated car, and yet he's keeping up. In fact, if anything, he's pressuring Alan Jones to a certain extent, and he's keeping up very well with Rosberg and with Danny Sullivan in the Tyrrell. So full marks for Brian Henson, another gutsy effort from him.
Yes, he's got a lot of determination, to put it mildly, Brian Henson. He's made his way in business the hard way. Look at him, he's closing right up on Alan Jones. That was number 30, Alan Jones. There he is, he's in 3rd position, and that is the gap between Australian ex-world champion of 1980, Alan Jones in the Arrows, against Brian Henton in the Teddy Yip owned and Mo Nunn managed, Nigel Bennett designed Theodore. It's a very sanitary motor car, that. Beautifully put together. It handles very well indeed. Brian Henton had gear selection problems in practice. Jones under the bridge in 3rd position. Up into Druid, the 2nd gear, right-hander, plunges down. takes fourth gear around Graham Hill, about 140 miles an hour as they go along towards Surtees. And then the fastest part of the course, round the left-hander at Surtees, into Pilgrim's Drop. There in fourth position is Brian Hinton. Behind Hinton in fifth position now, it is Chico Serra, and in sixth position, Raoul Bursell. So it's the Tag Williams of Rosberg leading, then the Tyrrell of Sullivan, then the Arrows of Jones, then the Theodore of Hinton, and there is the Derby man, Brian Hinton, with, behind him, Hector Rebac, who has been lapped. Chico Serra in the Arrows is fifth, so both the Arrows cars of Jackie Oliver, the Dave Wass designed cars, are in the top six. Raoul Bursell in the Ligier is in sixth position. And John Watson's problem apparently was bad vibration in the drive line of the car. He's still in the pits and obviously out of the race. So that means to say that we now have two major retirements at the 14-lap stage. Johansson out with a blown engine, the third in 2 days. So back to Honda they will have to go, and John Watson out with driveline vibration. Lap 14, 40-lap race, and the interest is the white arrows there of Alan Jones pulling away from Brian Hinton, and the answer I think is yes. Yes, Hinton is definitely dropping back. It was 3.4 seconds.
Yes, they've been seesawing a bit with their gap, but whether that's any sort of indictment to Jones's fitness or not, I don't know. I mean, he certainly seems to be managing pretty well, but I can't quite see why the gap's seesawing. Well, let's see if Hinton can make any further impression on him.
The phlegmatic Keke Rosberg rounding the slowest corner on the circuit, Druids. Yeah, there you can see the gap between Rosberg leading. There he is, coming into the left-hander at Surtees, chased by Sullivan.
Just visually, I would have said that Sullivan, if anything, has closed up a little bit on Keke Rosberg. And that, in fact, certainly can't have been caused by the back marker, because if you remember, Rosberg went straight past and Sullivan had to wait for 3 or 4 corners. So Sullivan would appear to be catching Rosberg. He's catching him fast now.
2.5 seconds was the gap, and I think it's closing all the time. And
it's visibly closing now.
What is wrong with Keke Rosberg then? Is it tyres? That's the thing that you immediately think of. But both Keke Rosberg and Danny Sullivan, in first and second places as they come up to complete the lap, are racing on Goodyear tyres. The Tyrrell is noted for its superb suspension. The gap is 2.72 seconds. We have completed 22 laps. There's Rosberg. There under the bridge goes Sullivan. It's a 40-lap race. Sullivan is driving absolutely superbly. He's using the power of the Tyrrell to its maximum. He's got, if he's lucky, about 500, just over 500 horsepower compared with over 600 of the Ferrari, which is closing up behind him of René Arnoux. And I remind you, he's 2 laps behind because Arnoux has been into the pits twice. There is the Frenchman. So, lap 23. Rosberg leads, Sullivan second, Jones is third, Hinton is still fourth, then Chico Serra and Raoul Bursell. And there is René Arnoux. Conditions are absolutely perfect. The course is dry. There's quite a high wind blowing, but that's keeping the rain clouds overhead on the move. And you can see shadows of the car. The sun is shining straight down on Brands Hatch and an enthralled crowd.
Yes, if the commentary ceases in a moment, it's because our hut on top of the grandstand has been blown away. We're wobbling about a bit, but it's fine for the cars.
Here they come to finish another lap. I'll give you the gap. Over the line goes Rosberg. Over the line goes Sullivan. And the gap is 2.14 seconds. It was 2.7 seconds. Danny Sullivan, 33 years old, number 4, from Louisville in Kentucky, the ex-Jim Russell Racing Driver School pupil of 1971, 6th in the British Formula 4 championship in 1972, who went on to Formula 3, who won 4 Formula 3 races in 1975, then moved up to Formula 2 and Pacific, and last year won the Las Vegas Can-Am race as he did in 1980, is closing up, 1981, is closing up on Keke Rosberg. The gap is now 1.6 seconds. And the Williams team, I'm looking down into the pits, are getting ready for a tyre change, and so are the Tyrrell team. Both the Tyrrell and the Williams mechanics are out there ready to change tyres. Keke Rosberg came in for a practice tyre change this morning. It took 20 seconds.
It's interesting that the Goodyear runners have gone. We've had 5 cars into the pits already for tyre changes, and it seems that they've really blundered a bit on the compound, the choice of compound here. But on the other hand, of course, it may be a bit like the Brazilian situation where the 2 different compounds, the one that lasted was so much slower than the one that would go half the race, it was worth making the pit stop, which was a situation new in my experience to Formula 1 racing. Of course, that was the trouble that put Rosberg out of the race with that ridiculous disqualification.
Lap 25, and you can see for yourselves how Danny Sullivan in the Benetton Tyrrell, and out goes Arnoux from the pits yet again. This is the 3rd time the Frenchman has been into and out of the pits, but now all eyes, understandably, are at the front of the field for what is developing into a terrific scrap between world champion Keke Rosberg in the Tag Williams, who has driven in 53 Grand Prix, and Danny Sullivan in the Benetton Tyrrell, who has driven in 2 Grand Prix, racing for the lead in the Race of Champions on lap 25. Well, just let's take a quick check on the gap. I make it 0.5, just about half a second, as they go into clearways. This is a 140-mile-an-hour turn. They change up into 5th gear as they go down the Brabham Straight over the line, and the gap now is 0.41 seconds. And where is, if anywhere, Sullivan going to get past Rosberg?
Well, he's not close enough now, but into Druids, of course, is one place. He's already shown plenty of attack there on the first lap. He was very aggressive into Druids, fended John Watson off. And then again, the other place is now. What he wants to do now is to get round this corner very well, slow corner, get it booted out well, and now get drafting along the longest straight on the circuit. And he's quite well placed. If he can just get a toe, that's follow, no, and it looks like Rosberg, but Williams is very fast in the straight line. They've also got very good Cosworth engines that they have little treatments to and tweaked up themselves. And it looks like Sullivan hasn't got the straight line performance to do anything. He's going to have to push for a mistake. But of course, if Rosberg's in tyre trouble, I think the trouble is, I think they're probably both in a bit of trouble. You can see the tyres marking up on Rosberg's left rear. You see the blisters on the tyres there. You see 2 stripes on his left rear tyre, and that is blisters. So Rosberg is not going to make the race on that set, in my opinion. I really can't think that he can go on for much longer without coming in.
As they complete their 26th lap, there is an electric atmosphere in the pits. Both the Williams and the Tyrrell mechanics watch their respective drivers go through, and there in the pits, yes, again, is René Arnoux in the Ferrari. I would think from the positioning of the car that Arnoux is about to retire. But meantime, it's still Alan Jones in 3rd position behind this scrap for the lead between Rosberg in the Williams and Sullivan in the Tyrrell. In 4th position, it's still Hinton. In 5th place, it's still Serra, and 6th is Brazil.
Now look at the tyres. Now what I want to do is have a look at Sullivan's car to see. You can see the left rear on Rosberg's tyres badly blistered, and I can't at the moment see much wrong with Sullivan's tyres. He looks to be in better shape. I want to have a look at his fronts though. But Rosberg's left rear is quite plainly in trouble, and he can't go the distance like that. And it looks, they do look all right to me. The right rear looks a little bit scuffed around the outside shoulder, but I would have said that Sullivan is just looking for the moment now when Rosberg feels, or either that he pushes too hard on a blistered tyre, has much less grip. What happens is that you run the tyres as hot as you can with the rubber. Well, when it gets too hot, the rubber simply bubbles up and blisters and makes holes in, and then away you go.
And as Rosberg and Sullivan come through shortly to complete their 28th lap, not all that far behind them is that doughty campaigner, ex-world champion Alan Jones, with 97 Grand Prix under his belt, and he is only 11.5 seconds behind Sullivan. So there he is, there is Alan Jones, with Hinton behind him in 4th position. Chico Serra in the Arrows is in 5th place. Raoul Bassel is in 6th place in the Ligier. 7th is Jean-Louis Schlesser, who has been lapped. 8th is Roberto Guerrero. So Brian Hinton is showing the way round to his Grand Prix teammate Roberto Guerrero with a vengeance.
Well, it was Keke up on the curb there, out of Hawthorns, and really sliding about. It's not easy to drive a car on a blistered tyre. It has a considerably less grip, and but mind you, when you're brought up on Finnish ice, you get plenty of car control, and car control is something that Keke certainly isn't short of. There is Alan Jones in 3rd place. Right, he's dropped back a bit, but he's by no means out of contention.
Out of the race has gone René Arnoux, who has officially retired with camshaft trouble, to join Stefan Johansson, who retired with piston problems like a hole in it. And now Sullivan challenges. He's right up with Rosberg. They're going round Graham Hill, then into Surtees and onto the fastest part of the course. Yeah,
this is where Sullivan's got to keep his cool, because it wasn't clever to have a look where he did. He wants to get perfectly positioned there. Yes, there's another. You can actually see the bits of rubber chunking off the tyre there. You could see it sitting up proud on Rosberg's left rear, and he really, I would think, as a matter of safety, is going to have to come in soon. Otherwise, he could blow. The tyre could throw a tread, and I would think that if his pit can see how bad that tyre it is, bear in mind that's on the far side of the car when he passes them. If they can see it, they should call him in.
Yes. Yesterday, Arnoux had a tyre blow at maximum speed. It just literally exploded at this point on the course, incidentally. And Arnoux held the car magnificently, got it straight, drove back to the pits, but there was rubber all round the course, and surely Keke Rosberg must soon come into the pits. Danny Sullivan is undoubtedly watching that left rear of Rosberg, and half a second is the gap, with 29 laps out of 30 completed, and Jones is still 3rd, Hinton is still 4th, Bassel is still 5th, Serra is still 6th.
Yes, I do hope that Frank Williams will call Keke in, because this is after all a non-championship race, and whilst he's clinging on absolutely brilliantly, Arnoux had a tyre go yesterday, and it's basically a matter of luck when you hit anything, if you hit anything or not, when a tyre blows on you, because you really have no control on the car. And that looks, look at this, blisters, 2 lines of blisters, and it looks most unsafe. And I just hope Frank for once will take a decision, because decision making has never been his forte, but he really needs to now.
An interesting aspect of this race and the leading car, Keke Rosberg's, is that actually this is the test car of the Williams team, and the test mechanics, they have a separate car for testing, they have a separate team of mechanics that look only after testing, and their reward for a successful test program has been to bring their car here and themselves here, and they're having the pleasure of watching Rosberg in the lead as they come up to complete 30 laps. That is 3/4 distance, and I don't know if Sullivan is just playing a waiting game. Rosberg must know what the position of his tyre is, because he'll see it in the rear mirror.
That's right, and Danny Sullivan will also be able to see the state of Rosberg's tyre if he's not being hit in the face by bits of rubber that are coming off it. And I would think that he would really want to get past, because apart from anything else, if that tyre does fall apart, he's not in a very safe place, because he'll get bits of large chunks of rubber that are actually quite heavy flying around, to say nothing of any accident that Rosberg's going to have. But anyway, let's keep our fingers crossed. While Rosberg stays out there, let's just pray that the tyre stays together. Well, Rosberg's really on the limit, I must say. I'm surprised that with the tyre in that condition, he's getting enough grip to just to stay ahead, because it's not just Sullivan he's staying ahead of. Alan Jones is lurking behind, but not making much impression, although Sullivan now is really beginning to climb over him.
What an absolutely superb drive in only his 3rd Grand Prix, and it bears repeating. 3rd Formula One race, not his 3rd Grand Prix. Danny Sullivan in the green and black Benetton Tyrrell The best that he's done in the past in terms of big-time racing was to win the Las Vegas Can-Am race in 1981 and 82. Third in the Can-Am Championship, and now he's starting really to push Keke Rosberg. He's pushing him all the way around the circuit.
Yes, and Keke Rosberg had to go right over to the inside of the track on his entry into Druids then to shut the door and leave Sullivan the long way round if he was going to try and get round, but of course you can't do it from the outside. What he needs is a good slingshot here out of this corner to be able to get... Now, he's a little bit closer than we've seen him before. Maybe he can get a toe. Now, if he can get up alongside him, no, you see the Williams goes away on the straight, and that's a terrific indictment of the straight line performance of Williams, that he can actually making the hole in the air for Sullivan and still pull away.
And once again, the superb Ford Cosworth V8 engine really seems to be putting it across the turbos, because Johansson went out of the race, Arnoux went out of the race, Hector Rabat never showed in it, admittedly not a top-class Grand Prix driver, but with 153 Grand Prix wins behind him, it now looks as though the Race of Champions is going to be won for yet another time by the Ford Cosworth 500 horsepower plus engine. An enormous fillip for Keith Duckworth and his men at Northampton who produced this superb motor. And the leaders now, there they are, absolutely together in this race, which has now run 34 out of its 40 laps. And the question is, can Danny Sullivan get close enough to get past Rosberg? Rosberg is using the maximum of circuit, which is perfectly entitled to do, but keeping ahead.
Yes, and he's using that terrific straight line performance that the Williams has, and that will be a combination of a very good engine, a particularly powerful Cosworth, and of course, more importantly and more effect on straight line speed, the aerodynamics of the car itself, and that's entirely down to Patrick Head, of course, and his team of designers.
The engine, on the other hand, is down to John Judd, because last year the Williams team spent a lot of their own money on developing a special camshaft for that Ford DFB engine, which is now actually being used by some of the other teams as well, and it really seems to work. In third position, number 30, Alan Jones, who doesn't seem to be suffering any effects that show in his driving from that hip of his. He had a lot of pain at Long Beach and had to withdraw, but he's keeping going. He's 20 seconds behind now in the plain white unsponsored Arrows, and it's down to courage, I think, now, because Keke Rosberg has undoubtedly got the advantage. His engine will have no more power than that of Danny Sullivan, and they're approaching Clearways and Clark Curve now, and then they will cross the line to complete their 37th lap, leaving 3 more. I'm watching now to see the pit boards go out, to see what sort of signals the Williams team leader Keke Rosberg and the Tyrrell. And I don't think Danny Sullivan needs telling anything except what lap he's on. He knows where he is, second place, he knows who's in front of him, and he knows exactly what he's got to do. The question is, can he do it? Lap 38. This circuit is 2.61 miles long, and the gap is down to about 0.2 of a second only.
The problem for Sullivan is that out of this corner here, you see, being a left-hander, it's the grip comes from Rosberg's right-hand rear, which of course isn't damaged, so he's quicker relatively through that one, where he's getting the best, where Sullivan would have the best chance with the long straight. So it's a tricky situation for Danny Sullivan there.
Frank Williams, the Williams team owner and leader, is regarding this race as being as important as a Grand Prix. He says, I am here to win. Keke Rosberg only knows one way to drive, and that is to win, and he's certainly showing it. Coming now to complete lap 38 in this 40-lap race, just the 39th and 40th laps to go. It's still Jones in third position, 23 seconds behind, over the line into paddock, now on lap, and there is the battle between Brian Hinton. Brian Hinton there is being caught by Raoul Boesel. Hinton in 4th position, Raoul Boesel in 5th place. In 6th position behind them now is the Frenchman Schlesser. And there is the Brian Hinton. Magnificent race he's driven. Sullivan and Hinton really must get top marks with Keke Rosberg for magnificent and very, very determined racing in this race of champions. We are on lap 39. Over the line goes Hinton, and the gap between Hinton and Boesel is now 1.05 seconds. It's getting just as close for 4th position as it is for the lead. And there is the battle for the lead. I remind you that this is the last lap but one. When they go across the line at the end of this, the 39th lap, if Sullivan has got anything left, then will be the time for him to produce it.
Yes, I think he's looked long and hard. I think Rosberg really has the measure of him now. If he can just limp it round another lap, make no mistakes, Rosberg knows he's been making a big effort, but he'll knows all he's got to do is keep his slate clean. Now, he's going to go up the inside all the way up to Druid's corner, and Sullivan's come out very quickly, but you see Rosberg move straight over to the inside. Sullivan's having a look, and Rosberg has been particularly slow around Druid's.
Now Sullivan is on the inside, but he drops back.
Rosberg lent on him there. He used the full width of the road quite justifiably to push Sullivan out. Sullivan quite correctly had to back off and did so to avoid the accident, and that really looks like it now. I think Rosberg's got it sewn up. Because of that, Sullivan played his card at Druids, and he's now got a gap as a result of that failure, and I don't think he'll catch Rosberg now.
You have to take your hat off to Keke Rosberg, and my goodness how he's trying. He just looks in his mirror again. You'd think he'd got all day to win this race.
Certainly, yes, another tremendous performance from Rosberg in the most difficult circumstances, but Sullivan isn't beaten yet. He's still getting back on his tail, looking to have a go somewhere, looking to force a mistake.
Down to Clearways for the last time, the 40th time. Now Rosberg surely has got the lead that he needs over Danny Sullivan to take the checkered flag and the second Formula One victory in his career, and they crowd to the pit wall, the Williams team, and give him the acclamation that he deserves, as do the Benetton Tyrrell mechanics and Ken Tyrrell himself for Danny Sullivan. And look at that, Alan Jones coming through in 3rd position. Well, Alan has joined Keke Rosberg and has joined Danny Sullivan and Brian Hinton as giving absolutely superb performances in this race of champions. He finishes in 3rd place. Now, who is going to get that 4th place? Is it going to be Brian Hinton? They're coming out of Clearways now. There are Hinton and Boesel absolutely together, and Hinton takes it. Brian Hinton, well, it's difficult to find the words to say just how good a drive Brian Hinton has had, and Raoul Boesel's got nothing to be ashamed about either, as Jean-Louis Schlesser finishes in 6th position. A race of champions that we will remember for a long time, the 14th in the series, won by the reigning world champion, and deservedly so, Keke Rosberg, who controlled the race from the front in spite of what we thought were tyre problems. Look at that left rear with the 2 wear rings around it, blisters. Danny Sullivan on the wind down lap, right with Keke Rosberg as he was for so long, a superb 2nd place, which marks him for stardom in the future. World champion of 1980, Alan Jones, has shown that there's a lot of life in him yet, and if they can only get the money, the Arrows team will undoubtedly be amongst the front runners. Brian Hinton, a great drive in the Teddy Yip, Mo Nunn and Nigel Bennett Theodore. Raoul Boesel in the Ligier takes 5th position, and Jean-Louis Schlesser finishes, admittedly a lap behind, but nevertheless in his first Formula One race in 6th position, and it really was an absolutely super race of champions.